So I'm doing my project on the Jefferson National Forest. It runs through Virginia, West Virginia, and part of Kentucky. That's just a pretty picture. It won't go back. That was just a pretty picture of the Jefferson National Forest. Jefferson National Forest is combined with George Washington National Forest. They were combined in 1995, and I will explain that in part of the rest of the slideshow. Combined, they have 1.8 million acres of land. That is 1,664,110 in Virginia, 123,692 in West Virginia, and 961 in Kentucky. Part of the environmental throughout the George Washington and National Jefferson Forests is that there are 17 wood wilderness areas, 8 major rivers, and that includes, go through my notes here, that includes the Potomac, the James, the Roanoke, the New River, the Big Sandy River, the Holston River, the Cumberland River, and the Clinch River. There are 2,340 miles of perennial streams, 1,000 miles of trout water, which is basically just water with trout in it, in which I don't know, in the state of Virginia at least, you have to have a special license to fish in trout water, to have a fishing license. There are 82 water reservoirs and 16 municipal water supplies. Also in the environmental part of the George Washington and Jefferson National Forest, it includes the Blue Ridge Parkway, Mount Rogers National Recreation Area, which is 400 miles of designated trails. They have horse trails which you can take your horses on and that have wild horses on them. And it holds Virginia's tallest peak, which is Mount Rogers. It's also a home to a few thousand different species that live within the area, and that includes 40 species of trees, 2,000 species of shrubs and herbaceous plants, 78 species of amphibians and reptiles, 200 species of birds, 60 species of mammals, 2,340 miles of perennial streams, 100 species of freshwater fishes and mussels, and 23 federally listed threatened and endangered animal and plant species. It's also home to 325 miles of the Appalachian Trail and a bunch of other fun things. Part of the history of it is that much of the land was acquired during the Weeks Act of 1911. The land was largely surveyed in 1750. 1901, the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, which at the time was James Wilson, recommended starting a forest preserve in the southern Appalachians. March 21, 1902, state legislature of Virginia passed a resolution resolving support for the establishment of an extensive national forest in Virginia and the southern Appalachians. March 1, 1911, President Taft signed the Weeks Law authorizing the purchase of lands to create the first natural forest in the U.S. And also, the forests are these, like the Jefferson National Forest and the George Washington National Forest, they are combined the biggest public land in the eastern U.S. In 1911, 13,450 acres were bought that are now Mount Rogers. In 1913, 29,000 acres from Glenwood Estate became Natural Bridge Purchase Unit, and that's actually in Virginia as well, or Natural Bridges at least. It's about an hour and a half from Radford. In 1920, combined with newly acquired lands in Tennessee and North Carolina, it formed the purchase mentioned on the last side and the newly acquired lands. They formed the Unaka National Forest. In 1934 through 1935, the Clinton Mountain Lake Unit purchases were made, and then in April 21st of 1963, Jefferson National Forest formed by combining portions of Unaka and the George Washington National Forest with the Clinton Mountain Lake areas. And then again in 1995, George Washington National Forest and Jefferson National Forest were administratively combined. For politics, the Weeks Act tied creation of the forest to made it federally responsible for interstate commerce. It also consolidated administration and streamlined operations of the forest. Though there are two names, it is technically only one forest, and there's only one forest supervisor and one headquarters staff, and there is a bureaucracy responsible for natural forests is a separate department than that responsible for national parks. Politics continued. 30 years ago, Virginia had combined Department of Conservation and Economic Development. I'll let you read the rest of this, but the thing from December, after this happened, a lady actually started living in the forest, hoping to delay the project. There was one lady in a monopod, and the Forest Service officials closed a service road to keep supporters from delivering food, and there were people who actually walked up like the mountain to get her food. It's not known if the food was actually given to her after they talked to the people on, like the officials on the road. And then there were tree sitters in Peters Mountain in West Virginia. The economic portion of it is there's not really a whole lot, honestly, but it is free to get into Jefferson National Forest, but if you want to go camping or have a day pass, I do believe it's like $5 per person in the car, less if there's kids. And then cultural, the only thing I could find is that there were charcoal and iron works in the beginning, and that kind of led towards the culture of what there is now. So yeah, that's Jefferson National Forest. A really cool fact is that it is the headquarters is in Roanoke, and that's where I'm from. So that's exciting. So thanks a lot. And then here are my references for it, so that's cool.